And we are live. Good to go.
Welcome, 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 everyone. We're going to start momentarily.
Looks good. We got a good stream.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Ready to go, Rick?
Video
Yes.
like.
Okay.
Yep, ready to go.
Welcome, everyone, to episode 108 of the Cardano Effect. We have a different kind of episode today. This is the beginning of a new series. This is called the Gauntlet series. So we're bringing some of the proposals that were written in Project Catalyst over on the Cardano Effect. We'll be discussing them. And the purpose of this is to ask thoughtful questions to each of the proposal guests to make sure that we understand their projects. So we're all going to have the chance to vote very soon. And part of the voting process is to be educated about what's out there. So we're going to get right into the mix of things because we have three wonderful guests today, three wonderful proposals. Rick, I'm going to pass it over to you. How are you doing this morning? What's going on? What's happening?
Hey, doing great. Glad to have these three gentlemen here. Thank you for coming on. I want to give a shout out to the Cardano Foundation for sponsoring this podcast. Thank you very much. And I would like to also remind viewers new to this podcast, we're available on all audio streaming platforms. Okay, so with that said, the three folks we have here today, we have Mark. He has a proposal about cloud. We have Jason, who has his proposal is based on Rina architecture, and we have Dwayne, who has a proposal that is based on the Liqwid protocol, and they're here to tell us about the protocol. And the format for this is going to be each person is going to have 20 minutes. The first 5 minutes they'll give us their elevator pitch, and then for about the next 5 minutes we're going to have discussions and questions between me and Philippe and the other participants, and then the remaining 5 minutes is going to be available for chat. So when we get near the end of the segment for each guest, feel free to start posting your questions in chat for the person who is presenting, okay? And the winner of the coin toss, who also decided to go first, was Dwayne, all right? So well done, Dwayne. He won the coin toss, and he said, I'll go first. That's like a Super Bowl champion right there. So let's get into it. What do you say, Philippe? Did I cover everything, and we can roll over to it?
Yes, that sounds good. So we need to give DC some sharing abilities because he's going to be sharing a presentation just to introduce DC's project. And then DC, you can, while Rick gives you the hosting abilities, it's DC, Joshua Akpan, and Tashoma Vellini. So those two are your co-founders, and DC is the founder of this project, this proposal. It's called Liqwid, Cardano DeFi Lending Markets. So Rick, whenever you have a chance.
All right, DC, I just gave you control so you can share your screen, and you'll see a green frame around the portion that's being shared, and I will let you know when we can see it.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it, guys. Can everyone see my screen here?
Yes. Yeah, I see it.
Looks
Okay,
good.
great. Cool. So, I first want to start by just saying, thank you both Rick and Philippe for having me on. For our team at Liqwid, this means a lot to us. We're really trying to, bootstrap community support around this idea. The concept of DeFi and Cardano, I think that, and, for DeFi, it's decentralized finance, right? I think that we see equivalents on Ethereum today, but many users are not really exposed to these, lending and borrow markets. Many users haven't been exposed to the concept of, layer 2 applications that sit on top of the base chain and the real value add they provide to the holders of the base chain token. And I think that Liqwid is really here to bring DeFi in a responsible way to Cardano. In many ways, we think about Liqwid as solving, a very old problem in a very new way. The problem is illiquid borrow and lending markets, right? And what does that lead to across emerging markets in the world? We see payday lending schemes, right? We see, high fixed fee, high bank KYC and AML overhead fixed costs into the actual, whether it's the mobile credit lending, whether it's the digital money lending, right? All of these schemes, due to the fact that there's so much fixed costs and there's such, how do I say this? Illiquidity in the markets, it allows for these variable high fixed interest costs that for borrowers is really the worst deal that you could ever think of. Not only are you entering a high risk default contract, meaning if I need short-term financing, my abilities to basically do that at scale at a low cost that's affordable for me and reasonable in the fact that I'll be able to pay that back with interest, it's actually very low in many places around the world. I have family that lives in Jamaica and the Caribbean. We deal with the same problems as my co-founder, Josh, who lives in Nigeria. He's from Port Harcourt. Tashoma has, origins from Ghana. He now lives in Montreal. But, around the world, we see the same issues coming up, and we really do pose Liqwid as the Web3 alternative to the borrow lending markets that we've seen come before, both in the Web2 world and in the DeFi world of Ethereum today. And the main driver of that is the introduction of identity and the introduction of credit into the DeFi lending markets. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we get into this. So what I'm showing here basically is our set of slides that we produced for Project Catalyst Fund 2. What I'm going to go through is some things like our development methodology, our general timeline, and some of the tasks that we expect to accomplish within the first Fund 2 round, so the first 6 weeks of Fund 2. As you can see here, I spoke to Josh. He's a Cardano ambassador. He founded Proof of Africa stake pool in Cardano, one of the early ITN stake pools. He's been a Project Catalyst Fund 1 member, really has embraced this community and taken a lot of the opportunities as an early adopter of Cardano that many people, are really still, just becoming used to the point that Josh is even working on setting up, different African, blockchain developer meetups and things going on in Nigeria. He's an awesome guy. He's doing great work. Tashoma as well. He comes more from the Solidity dApp dev and web marketing background. Great guy to have on our team. He's been running the Afro Fin Lab. It's a Cardano focused Fin Lab trying to get, African open source developers into this community. He brings a lot to the table in terms of our ability to market, to do some things in web development, and he has that Solidity experience, as I mentioned. So some of our development partners, before I get into our actual pitch. Twig is an awesome development partner. Twig helped build Plutus from the ground up. Guys like Manuel Chakravarti are Tweegers who have been working hand in glove with the IOHK Plutus team, for the last few years to really architect the Plutus platform and now implement it actually on Cardano mainnet, which we're really excited about, with the launch of Goguen. App Inventive is a top blockchain dApp development company. They're based in US, UK, and Northern India. Great guys. We've had several conversations with them, and we look forward to partnering with them as our, core developers that are going to augment, our core, development team of Haskell and JavaScript guys. And Credmark. Credmark is an integration partner for us. They have a great product called Credmark Clear that we're really keen on implementing actually through Altala Prism into our system. Credmark Clear enables, on-chain FICO equivalent credit scores, and the pricing of different financial products, different credit products, and data products can actually be streamlined by using the Credmark API to say, users with the equivalent of a FICO 800 credit score are priced at X amount, users below are priced at Y. So something like that is the value that you gain through their API. It really does mean for many users around the world, the introduction of credit for the first time ever. So we don't take that lightly. So moving forward here and just kind of going through the problem statement and, what we see as our TAM or addressable market, right? The ideal situation would be near zero fee borrow and lending markets, right? We want users to have instant liquidity on demand to enter and to leave the lending and borrow markets, right? If I want to earn interest on my money, or if I want to, finance an investment or a small business at a low cost, Liqwid is for that, right? It's a peer-to-peer market that's a liquidity smart contract on chain and non-custodial in any means, right? The problem is right now, these instant loan solutions are just way too expensive, right? And I'll go through some of the popular, Web 2 kind of loan solutions that exist in places like West Africa and India. And we'll kind of, compare our solution to those. But just in terms of costs, time, default risk, in the centralized finance or what I call CFI and decentralized finance or DeFi solutions today, we really do see Liqwid as easy order of magnitude or two higher, assurance in those solutions and just frictionless ease of use. The costs of the financial problem, some interesting articles here. I recommend, folks to go through and kind of look at some of the research that we gathered, but this is a market that's growing rapidly, right? We see, compounded annual growth rate of almost 19%, right? Forecasted through 2027. And that's going to basically result in almost 17 billion, right? Annually flowing on the global digital lending platform rails, right? And this is just the Web 2 world. This isn't accounting for anything that we see built on Ethereum or any DeFi protocols at all. So the market for this is very massive in the Web 2, and we assume, even larger in Web 3.
All right, we're approaching the 7-minute mark, so you have about 3 minutes left for the elevator pitch.
Sure, thanks.
Sorry about that. I don't want to rush you and then have people ask questions that you were going to answer anyway. Sorry.
No worries. Yeah, absolutely. No, it's cool. So our founding team, and just a little bit about our experience. Myself, I've been in the management consulting industry for 3.5 to 4 years now. Worked on several projects, financial modeling, capital budgeting. Have done some bank loan reserve analysis. I got my master's degree in finance before starting management consulting, so I do have a very strong understanding of the economic theory, the principles macro and micro that we're implementing both on supply demand and interest rate setting, concepts like time value of money that really underpin money markets, not only in Web 2 DeFi but also in traditional markets today. These concepts are things that I really get. As well, recently I've been working much more in the enterprise software implementation space. My day job has me do a lot of data analysis, modeling, and profiling. So I think across the board, I definitely bring a variety of, broad experience from, both finance and consulting, project management, business analysis, and these type of things. If you click these links, you can kind of see all of our LinkedIn's and, follow our backgrounds.
That's good.
I don't want to go too much more. Thank you, Rick. Appreciate that. I don't want to go too much more into our, dev partners, but just a little bit on them and the work that they've done. Again, we're really excited to work with these guys, and we really kind of go back to that founding ethos of what we're trying to do here, and democratizing, the access to banking, democratizing the access to own your own bank and own your own data and credit. That really got some of our dev partners excited, and I think that's why we were able to, assemble the team that we have here. And between Twig, App Inventive, we have two Australian, Haskell and JavaScript devs that are turning into Marlowe devs, working on the United Nations hackathon for us. We really have put together something great in terms of, not only developers, but a business team and, marketing team that can really bring this thing to life. And in the last 3 months, I've seen, my guys really work hard to do just that. And some of our development methodology goes kind of getting into the nitty gritty of things, right? As a consultant, working on some of these enterprise large scale projects, mostly in the public sector, we do try to go agile as much as possible. What that means is there's a sprint-like structure, which means, every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks, you're going through basically the next phase of development for the protocol. And that means that there's a checklist of certain, deliverables and tasks and activities that you just expect to have before you can enter this. There's almost like a phase gate review here. Before you can enter analysis, everything in planning, has to be checked off and approved. And that's usually by the client. But in this case, the client is really, the Cardano community, you guys, the ecosystem, because we're the ones, all of us who are voting on these proposals. And, the rational actor is going to vote on the most complete proposal. And we want to treat this, at least myself, the same way I would treat an engagement that I'm working on for my day job. And what does that look like? For us, that means that, we have our first 3 phases leading up to development, fully hashed out in terms of the inputs, the outputs, the deliverables that, Cardano ecosystem can expect to receive with our progress updates when we ask for more funding, or every, month or so when we just produce project updates. And some of just, if you go through this, you can see from planning, many of the inputs that lead into the finals of outputs then become the inputs of analysis and so forth. It's much like a compounding of the work you've done before, leading from a conceptual to a more technical, all the way up to wireframes and implementation and development, right? So that's kind of
there's 10 minutes. I'm sorry, DC. That was the 10-minute elevator pitch. So we'll move on to the next 5 minutes. It's rounds from the Gauntlet, questions from the Gauntlet. Okay, those are the next questions. So what I would like to do, I'll take the first question, and my first question, I'm going to use that time to say, go ahead and tell me the most important point that you had to make on those slides, and then we'll bring down the screen share, okay? So I'm going to hand my question over to you, and you tell me the most important point, 1 minute, and then we bring down the screen share. Sound good?
Sure, yeah. I mean, I think I said the most important thing first. It's that, this hasn't existed before. The introduction of, instant on-demand borrow lending credit markets that introduce identity and credit on chain in a way that can, never be taken down. It's decentralized, unstoppable, 24/7. Let's get it. That's the selling point of, DeFi on Cardano.
Cool. And the key is the first is the funding for the first 4 weeks of the first phase of this project. Yes?
Yes, sir. And you can see that here in my idea scale proposal. We have it broken out by the App Inventive team and the initial work that they're going to do. we were asking for a bit more, and we really took a look at what everyone else is asking for and tried to pose ourselves as, a DeFi dApp that's bringing something to Cardano that, we just don't see other ideas, yet doing. And I think that coming in right around 365K, it's around 4 weeks runway for us, but we plan on making that really work for the first 6-week funding round.
Okay.
And that's just what it is right now. So, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, DC. That's time on my question. I pass to the Gauntlet.
Okay, I have a question for you, DC. So for your protocol, for your dApp, who's going to determine the lending rates for prospective customers looking for a loan? Who determines that?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's all algorithmically set, Philippe. So supply and demand actually determines it, right? And I'll give you an example. If I'm in the ADA market on Liqwid protocol and there is very high demand to borrow ADA, but there's very low supply of ADA, meaning that everyone's staking ADA, so no one's actually putting it in Liqwid pool, right? The actual earn rate, right? If you wanted to provide your ADA as a liquidity provider in our protocol, the earn rate will be very high in that situation because the demand for the underlying asset ADA is very high, right? And I'll give you the flip side of that, right? If we're in a, maybe a native asset that's built on Cardano, let's call it Charles Coin, and the Charles Coin market on Liqwid is just not very utilized. Not many people want to borrow Charles Coin. It's just a volatile illiquid coin, right? At that point, you are going to have a lot of supply, likely just people depositing their Charles Coin in that smart contract on Liqwid, but very low interest rates because the algorithmically set demand, right, that's being calculated is very low. Borrowers are just not as interested in borrowing, an illiquid, micro coin as they are as borrowing like an ADA or a stable coin in our markets. We expect the stable coins like US dollar coin, Great British pound, South African rand, Nigerian naira. We expect these coins to take off a lot faster than even the ADA or, especially the Charles coin examples, right? So that's kind of how this is all set. It's all algorithmically controlled.
And quick follow-up question. You mentioned Naira. So I read on your website that you were comparing it to, you were making comparisons between DeFi solutions like yourself and CeFi or centralized solutions like OPay. And I looked at a quick video of someone that shot, I wanted to see how the OPay platform worked. And as of December 2019, the maximum that a first timer could take out, or a loan that they could take out, is 50,000 Naira, which is around $131 with an origination fee of 11,250 Naira. So the interest rate is 22.5% for a centralized financial application. How confident are you that your DeFi Liqwid protocol could offer loans in a way that could beat centralized financial applications, but also offer the returns for people actually loaning out the money? So there's a certain level of risk. You don't want to have too low of an interest rate, but you want to be more competitive than centralized financial applications, if that question makes any sense.
That question makes perfect sense, Rick. Philippe, my apologies. I pulled up this slide here because it's a slide that we put in our pitch deck when we were speaking to VCs and early development firms about Liqwid. But what it's really showing is actually, the competitor that you just mentioned at OPay. And I want to talk a little bit about the Web 2 incumbent that we pose ourselves against. OPay operates in certain countries like Nigeria, Ethiopia, Kenya, and India. They have different products across these countries, and they offer them in app stores like Google Play Store, iOS, and Android. You can go online and research all of this. Please fact check me. Google Play Store basically demanded that OPay, reduce or even take down their lending business because of how predatory in nature their actual core model was. And I'll explain what that means, right? So keep in mind that OPay is a Chinese VC-backed Nigerian fintech firm, right? They charge 22% sometimes just to originate a loan, right? Just to start a loan is 22% of the total loan costs. The claimed max APR that you will pay interest on those loans are, like I said, they vary by the country, but they're something like 12 to 33%. But the actual APR that's calculated through research that many users on the macro level, have actually ended up paying is something more in between the 365 to 438% APR. And that's if you pay on time. If you're a late borrower, it's significantly higher, right? So this is actually the incumbent that we're up against. These are, the guys who are raising big VC money to offer solutions. But at the same time, we realize the solutions they're offering are based on Web 2 payment rails. They're outdated. the overhead cost, like I said, of banking, KYC, and AML is fixed into these, it reduces the profitability of the entire scheme, basically. And that is why we have Liqwid, right? Liqwid is the Web3 alternative that's set to compete with these options, right? These are the only players in town.
And that is time. Sorry to interrupt you, DC.
Okay.
That is time. Sure. We have the last 5 minutes here. We're going to go to the questions from chat. We probably don't need the screen share up. You can bring that down if you'd like.
Sure.
But if you need to put it back up, you can see there. You can just pop it back up on the screen. The first question from chat. Philippe, I was scanning through them on my phone because I can't see it on the screen when the screen shares up.
Yes.
I'm going to hit the first one from Marley Duchovny asks, and Dwayne did touch on this already. The question is, what are your tokenomics and what separates Liqwid from the other dApps on Fund 2?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'll take the first part, right? The tokenomics of Liqwid works something like this, right? The users of our system, both on the lend side, so those who want to earn interest, and on the borrow side, so those who want to collateralize and take out an asset, are actually being rewarded by the airdropped governance token of our platform, Liqwid. This is going to be forged when the multi-asset ledger goes live on Cardano. We expect that to be at some point before the end of 2020. But there will be, a very, how do I say this, radical democratized version of owning a bank stock or, owning a bank in general, right, on Cardano. And we intend to be, the first mover in that wave. That's what Liqwid is all about. And that's what this governance token is going to, really, I guess, embody. I think Satoshi himself would approve of what we're planning on doing with this governance token. And I think people will understand that more as we move into the future, but that's all I'll say about the tokenomics of the platform for now. In terms of what separates us from other dApps in Fund 2, I think it goes back to this idea of, securely and safely bringing DeFi to Cardano, right? We've put together a team not only capable, but proven, right? The partners that Twig and App Inventive and Creditmark have worked with in the past, our core development team, we feel very strongly about our ability to implement this on Plutus testnet and then mainnet as the first, DeFi borrow lending protocol on Cardano. And I think that's a big deal for most ADA holders.
Okay, the next question is very short. It's from Larry. The question is, will it tie into Prism?
Yes, Larry, it will tie into Prism. We're meeting with IOHK Enterprise next week. We've already met with the Creditmark team that we plan to integrate into Prism. We've had productive conversation with both. We do think that Prism is going to be the ID solution on Cardano, and it's going to be the default, proof of human, basically, proof of identity solution for all of these dApps to use, especially financial service ones or any dApp that depends on, proving one for one you are, the user that your address connects you to. So that's what Altala Prism gives us.
Roger.
That's good. Rick, we have a question from Kevin. So, I mean, you briefly touched into this, but ask DC if there will be a governance token associated with the project. So if you maybe want to repeat that.
Yeah, sure. Yes, there will be a governance token. It's going to be called Liqwid LQD. Satoshi would approve. I'll promise you there will be a blog series, plenty of information to come out on our website about that in time to come. But I think that I'll just say this, beyond our governance token and beyond the airdrop ability for ADA holders and anyone else to gain it, I think our platform really is a boon for any ADA holder. When you think about the fact that you can have a dual strategy to earning more ADA, meaning you can be staking and also earning a low interest, maybe 2-3% every 5 days in a liquid market with your ADA. It's really, an opportunity for, someone who's maybe a power user, who's used to sending ADA around in these different, smart contracts and things to be able to earn more than just the base staking risk-free rate. So it's a boon for all ADA holders beyond just our governance token.
Excellent. Thank you, DC. And I think the last question, Philippe, just came in from ADA Trader. The ADA Trader asks, is there a proof of concept for Liqwid, or is this a matter of investing first and then getting a proof of concept?
Yeah, we get that question a lot, especially from the VCs. That's all they want to hear, right? Proof of concept. And, we do not have a living proof of concept right now. Like I mentioned, we're in the United Nations hackathon. So what we're currently doing is actually building out our entire set of contract functions that operate and underpin our market inside of Marla. What our developers are doing right now, and they're both based in Australia, are using the Marlo source code to extend the playground and actually build our mint and our redeem and borrow contracts within a different library and then port them into Marlowe using something called foreign functional interfaces. We've had conversations with Simon Thompson and his team at IOHK. This is something that's already in a pull request for, being granted into the master of Marlowe playground. So we expect this to be there soon, but we're actually hoping that if we build good mint and redeem contracts, they can actually potentially use those and port those into Marlowe instead of having to FFI them in. So our proof of concept is rapidly coming. We've already completed the mint and basically halfway through the redeem contracts already. And to be kind of, frank, the equivalent of our protocol already exists on Ethereum. It's called compound markets, right? The one thing compound doesn't bring to the table is the introduction of identity, the introduction of transaction metadata, and the introduction of on-chain credit. There are things that you can do in Cardano that you cannot do in Ethereum. I'll just put it that way, for instance. And we plan to exploit the best of Cardano's protocol and the best of the primitives that we get with Cardano, things like the ERC20 converter, Oracle pools, Atala Prism, to name a few, right? And these things simply don't exist. So while Compound is the borrow lending money market of Ethereum, we plan on producing a hyper robust, just 10x more efficient version of this using Cardano Rails.
Okay, and we are at time. That was the 5 minutes. Thank you, everyone, for your questions in chat. We're going to have 2 more rounds where you ask questions from chat coming up. Thank you, Dwayne, for that presentation. That was fantastic. And anybody who's in chat, let us know how Dwayne did. Leave us his name, type Dwayne or DC on a scale of 1 to 10. Let us know how well his presentation went, how good his idea is, and just say, with 5 being average and 10 being the best, how did he do? Just type in DC and give us a number, okay? That way we get some feedback for Dwayne for his project. Fantastic work, nice work there, Philippe.
Yeah, kudos to you, DC, by the way. First guest, first Gauntlet Series podcast. So,
absolute champion.
Yes.
Thanks for having me, guys. All love. Honored.
Champion. All right. Next up, we have Jason with Rina. Super. Hi.
Hey, how's it going, guys? Philippe and Rick, thanks for having me on.
Going well.
Really appreciate it. Our project's called Ouroboros over Rina. And I think, as you guys have probably heard Charles speak about Rina several times, right? It's near and dear to his heart in this project. We in Okinawa, Japan, we have a Rina's users group meeting weekly on Saturdays, and we are currently working with a sponsorship from a communications service provider throughout Japan. We have these weekly meetings to discuss the deployment challenges of Rina and the problems we're solving are in preparation for a commercial launch of Rina. Our key performance indicators that we're looking at is to solve the dynamic namespace management, enrollment, flow allocation, resource allocation, routing, and security issues with the recursive taxonomic namespace service. Currently, all Rina stacks publicly available use a static namespace management. And to dissect that, basically, we're going to do a dynamic policy management. We're looking to create that. The second thing we're going to do is realize a commercial Rina deployment in Japan between 2 data centers using Ethernet/WDM before February of 2021. And that's going to be via the commercial service provider, of course. And once that's done, then we're looking to deploy a Cardano ADA staking host with 2 relay nodes on this Rina network using IP over Rina by March of 2021. And then next, we hope to work with the Cardano community to include IOG to test and eventually upgrade the IP over Rina to Ouroboros over Rina using Ethernet/WDM sans IP. And then continuously to promote and develop commercial viable Rina solutions for deployment. And that's our project, right? And like I said, I know Charles has spoken several times on the deployment of Rina. The functionality will be scalability, security, and performance, right, for the Cardano blockchain. So that's it, quick and dirty. That's what we're looking to do. Those 2 data centers will probably be somewhere in Tokyo, Japan.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you. Philippe, well, that was quick there. I'll leave the timer running so we can keep track and keep the flow moving. Philippe, you want me to lead off with the Rina questions?
Yes.
Because I think, okay, so I want to help facilitate a better understanding of Rina for the average user, right? So currently there's an existing internet out there in the world. It uses TCP/IP. Rina is a different paradigm type. Jason, can you explain how is Rina different than the current version of the internet?
Yeah, so the current version of the internet, TCP/IP, we route to destinations, right, or to ports. Whereas within Rina, it's going to be recursive. We're going to have things. We're going to actually get up to the application layer, and we're going to do this through policy, right? And we're going to create this policy through things called diffs and dafs. So the daf is going to be the what. Sorry about that. We have the Bozo Zocos in the background making a little noise, but. The distributed application facility is the what, and the diff is the distributed inter-process communication facility. And as John Day has said, all communications is inter-process communications, right? So basically, it's just going to be with a lot of simplicity and recursiveness is how it's going to be built through software and hardware that this communication service provider is currently experimenting with. Things like FPGAs and ASICs and things. So this is what we're looking at implementing.
Okay, so the current version of communicating from application to application. Let's say I'm the average user, because one of the things we do in the Cardano Foundation, at the Cardano Effect, is we break it down so people can kind of get it. So the current version of the internet, if let's say I'm on a web browser and I want to log into my bank, and I'm at the application layer because I'm on my web browser at layer 7 or whatever it is, right? And I go to log into my bank, and then it goes out over TCP/IP over the current standard internet, goes into the bank, goes up to the application layer, goes through security and all that kind of stuff, right? And then the connection is done. All right. How is Rina different?
You're going to have what's called diffs, distributed IPC facilities, that are going to go from your application over to your routers, and these are going to be lower layer diffs, right? And in between those diffs, the lower levels are going to talk to the upper layer diffs, and then that's going to create a flow control. And then based on this flow control, we're going to be able to pass that, whatever application that the end user is looking to pass.
Okay, and in this case, I'm sorry, Mark.
Can I have an additional question?
Yes, let me follow up on that one, then roll over to you, Mark, as well, okay? And the last thing is, that application we're referring to that you're describing here, you're going to test this on Daedalus or Ouroboros or what?
Yes, we're going to initially test over IP, and then we're going to work with the Cardano community to eventually test it over Ouroboros over Rina.
Thank you.
And we're looking to have that by, like I said, the one test by March of 2021.
Interesting. Mark.
Okay, so you are basically proposing a test between two data centers connected through WDM
yes.
multiplexing.
Right.
Okay, so what would be the distance between those two data centers? Or expected latency in milliseconds?
I don't know the distance or the expected latency, Mark. Okay, I can get a higher level engineer to, from the communications service provider to give you that information.
So since you are implementing IP over Rina, what kind of findings do you expect to find from this experiment?
Well, I think
in terms of performance improvements or scalability, or what would be the deliverable of the research other than it worked?
I think that first we have the ability to do the IP currently, right? Which we need to do the development with the engineers to be able to come up with the Ouroboros over Rina solution. So we hope to get provide the key performance indicators from our test results to the Cardano community and show them what we find. As I said, we're in the experimentation stage currently.
Yeah, I just think that the way you implement it, that at such a close distance you cannot get any measurable distance, any measurable difference by using IP over Rina. If you would use Rina natively, then maybe, but that would be like my concern, that there won't be. I would appreciate a proposal to actually implement it than to test it over IP, because I don't think there's going to be any improvements over IP. But I will check some research on that topic and get back to your proposal on that.
Okay.
Is it even possible to test Rina at a distance without IP? If my understanding is
that's actually, that was my another question which I decided to skip, and it was like Rina wide area network question mark question mark question mark, because that's like, you know, it would take like 50 years to get there, when actually you would communicate between Asia and Europe and US over Rina architecture, because that would be such a huge investment. It could have a great benefit in, for instance, Africa, where they already lack the infrastructure. So when they build it, they could use Arena and help them that way. So I see the project more beneficial towards the Cardano in Africa strategy than for the Cardano itself, for us, the Western people, let's say, the people in developed nations, I mean.
Yeah,
So
and I think so. The way we could kind of frame that is, Jason, if you would like to answer it in this manner, what are the current limitations of the public internet with respect to Rina, and how long would it take to implement? Let's start with what are the current implementations, then you can talk to how long would it take to implement, ultimately, you know, long term.
The current limitations of the internet?
No, the current limitations of using Rina at long distance over the internet.
the limitation would be it doesn't work.
Right. So what would have to be put in place for
You would
Rina?
have to replace the core routers from Verizon, British Telecom, and so on and so forth.
Okay.
It would mean the change of infrastructure. That's why it's good to experiment on it's the same problem with IPv6, the same problem with the new TCP. Simply replacing the core internet infrastructure, it's just an impossible task, because the network is so complex, underfunded, and so on and so forth. That's why I said that it would make sense to support both architectures and deploy the Rina architecture in Africa, where it could actually provide tangible benefits. And for the Western nations, if we cooperate with the universities, then it can provide us with the advanced knowledge of that technology, and we would then be the ones making the routers for the Africa instead of some other countries. So that's where I would see the added. But for us, the average users on this podcast, I don't think it would tangibly influence it. The research would be great, and we could build on that. But in Europe or in US, the cost to deploy Rina would just be too high in any reasonable time frame.
Would Rina over IP be a good proof of concept?
Terrible concept.
Yeah.
You want IP over Rina, not Rina over IP. And that's what they want to test. That's what they want to test.
Is that correct?
That is correct. We're going to do
IP over Rina, but not Rina over IP. Okay.
Well, you described those 7 layers of ISO-OSI model.
Yeah.
And by implementing Rina over that model, you would just add a layer 8. What results would you expect other than it sucks even more?
Well, what I'm saying is the current test would have to be Rina over IP, right?
Yeah, I think we're going to.
No, it would be IP over Rina, because they would implement a Rina network. On that Rina network, they would implement 2 instances of Cardano node and let them sync between one another. And if it would be syncing, and it would be syncing better than via traditional IP internet, then they have some measurable improvements. but with that, my concern is that they will be doing it at too little distance to actually have a measurable improvements. Because if your overall latency between two data center is 2 milliseconds, your difference with using Rina is gonna be in a nanoseconds, which is gonna be very hard to measure if you account for deviations in the measurements and so on and so forth. If it would be on a greater distance, it would provide in my opinion much more meaningful results. And then what would you have if it would get implemented is that you would have a Cardano node that would support both IP and Rina. So you could have one ESP like Verizon who would give you IP, and then you could have like Starlink who would give you Rina, and your node would be connected to both networks, interconnecting the network and enabling them to communicate between one another. That's how I understand the proposal in the end after it would get implemented in the Cardano node, if the results of the experiment would be beneficial and the final proposal would be approved. Did I describe that right, Jason?
Well,
At least
I think this, like I said, I am not the senior engineer. We have a CTO who understands this this development of, way further than I do. And he has some experimental hardware that he's doing, that he's working with, so that I can't divulge it at this time, but I think you're going to see a lot more efficiency with his design than what you're talking about with the traditional OSI model. We're not looking at adding an 8th layer to it.
well, you would probably build upon at least IP. You could skip over TCP, but even that would be problem, which is why Google implements QUIC. What you could do is that you could implement QUIC as an overlay protocol, because it builds upon UDP, and basically the IEET spent like 5 years figuring out how to add another TCP to the internet, and this was the best they've been able to come up with, and that could provide benefits even over long distance to some extent, I guess.
Okay.
That's to be tested with Google HTTP3.
I have a quick question for Jason. So, I mean, how far out? I mean, I know you said you wanted to do a test in by March of 2021, but I mean, the way I look at Cardano now and the way I look at Ouroboros, it's taking a pretty long time to get to the position that we've gotten to currently. And staking just started, and people's nodes are getting up, and now we want to try to experiment with Rina. I mean, realistically speaking, if the Rina test proved to be positive, I mean, how long would it take for us to implement something like that for nodes? And is it even feasible? Would it involve nodes kind of reinventing their node structure in order to run Rina? I mean, these are questions
this is what we're going to have to work with the community on, right? We're going to have to work with the IOG group to determine a rollout with it. But we're wanting to do proof of concept first, right? And like I said, this communication service provider is already going to be rolling out Rina, right? So this is my position within this Rina users group, where we have these meetings weekly, is crypto outreach. And so I follow the Cardano project quite closely, and that's why I was looking to possibly present this as a test case to do proof of concept by early next year. And that's what we're looking for. 200,000 ADA to create the stake pool and the 2 relay nodes, and show the key performance indicators that we come back with.
Okay.
Well,
okay.
If your timeline is March next year, maybe we could get another university involved, which would be in Europe, and we could do a tunnel and see how that would perform, because I recently sponsored a conference on blockchain at the local university, and we have a IT for Innovation Center, which builds one of the most powerful supercomputers in Europe. So they may be interested in that as well. I think that then it would provide some more meaningful results. I think we could touch base on that later.
Okay, Mark. I think we're in contact with each other over Twitter. Right?
Rick.
Yes.
Do we want to field some YouTube questions?
Yes, we are at 15 minutes. Actually, we're at 16 minutes. But yeah, 5 minutes for YouTube questions. I was just dropping links down below. They asked for DC's link. I dropped that in the chat to the right. I put DC link next to it. I just dropped the Rina link for Jason. So you look for, it says Jason Rina link. Check out that link. And if you want to roll over and check the questions for Rina and for Jason, feel free to do so. And I will drop the link for Mark's cloud proposal. Okay, so.
Okay. So, Jason, in the meantime, can you tell us a little bit more about your team? I know you spoke to it briefly at the beginning, but exactly who's responsible for what? I mean, how does this go from the proposal stage to the implementation phase?
It's 100% working with this communication service provider, right? And like I said, these guys have a production network throughout Japan, from Aomori to Okinawa, Japan, Osaka and Tokyo and various other places. So the fact that we have this production network for them to be rolling Rina out is something that no other test case has been able to use, right? It's just been academia and people doing these things on a lab type scales. So just lucky to be able to have these guys that are rolling, that have this infrastructure and this team, this academic team. They have Linux programmers. They have, we said we have a senior CTO who has 30 plus years in networking in Asia. So these guys are a highly qualified team. And like I said, it would be an add-on to see if actually any blockchain would be jumping over their network, right? And that's when I was trying to take this opportunity to say, hey, let's get this funding to try to get a stake pool created and 2 relay nodes, and then show proof of concept of Cardano running over Rina.
Okay.
Excellent. And I don't see any questions. I'm still scanning for questions. Thank you, Jason. I think we're about to wrap this up. We're approaching the 20-minute mark, and that was a very great explanation. I think the most common feedback in the chat is people don't understand Rina, and I totally agree. I read about Rina first about 2 years ago in IOHK papers, IOG papers, 2.5, almost 3 years ago. I looked up stuff on Rina. It was hard to understand. So I think the best thing to do moving forward with Rina is a really good description at the average human level of what Rina is, because some people say it's technically too complex, although people like Mark, Jason, myself, and anyone who knows how TCP/IP works, you also have pretty good about what Rina does. And some questions were, will Rina make for a stake pool get a higher ROI? No, it will not. So let me see if there's any questions. So from Planet Stake, Jason, Planet Stake asks, how does Rina latency compare to 5G? So let's kind of do that on a scale. How does Rina latency compare to TCP/IP, and how does it compare to 5G?
It's far greater performance than TCP/IP. I do not know.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mark.
If you could mention the number, because I don't think it's that significant. I think the improvement is less than 10% for latency. It enables greater decentralization, but the actual performance numbers are not that better.
So what's the main benefit to using Rina? Let's go to that.
Further decentralization, it would enable people to, instead of buying internet from Verizon, it would enable people buying internet from their neighbors. It's because if you know how BGP and autonomous systems works, and the paperwork and the red tape associated with starting an ISP,
yeah,
Rina eliminates that, because you can build a permissionless Rina with dynamic allocation of system identification resources.
As a matter of fact, Mark, you brought up a great point. It's a great example. It's a good thing to add to the proposal. Do you remember like a month ago when there's a massive internet outage in the United States? There's huge internet, North America. And I think a lot of it was Border Gateway Protocol, BGP, between the ISPs. Yep. That was what caused the massive internet problems.
Well,
would Rina solve that?
Yes, but we can also solve it without Rina.
Okay.
There is like a cryptographic protocol for signing BGP routes with the cryptographic keys for like 6 years. Only like 20% of the internet uses it. That's the same problem with the Rina that I see. Okay, you invent this standard that is it's 100% backwards compatible. You don't even need to replace any devices. You just need to change your scripts and train your network operators. And still, the penetration of this new technology that would eliminate these huge problems is near zero at 20%, or IPv6 at 40. You know,
Okay.
that's the problem with Rina that I see. If we
Okay.
expect the telcos to build it, they won't, because they lack the motivation, or they do it in 100 years.
Okay. All right. So follow-up question from Planet Steak, because we've got to make sure we take care. We got to take care of the viewers. We got to take care of the audience. Okay. Because that's where it counts. These are the people that are going to be voting. I dropped your links. They're going to be giving you claps or not claps. And so to follow up with Planet Steak, their last question here is, okay, so Rina is, and this is for Jason, not Mark. So Rina is decentralized internet data flow, which can gain the benefits from TCP/IP or 5G, or it has not, and it has nothing to do with speed.
It does have something to do with speed. It is a it has far greater performance by design, right? I mean, when we take like an Ethernet frame, right? We have a 20 to 30% overhead, right? That we cannot pass data through, but via the design of Rina itself, it's going to be inherently faster by the way it's just designed.
Okay. Thank you for that, Jason. That is a good note to end it on. It's inherently faster by the basis of the design, and in summary, your proposal is to do a proof of concept and actually run Ouroboros over Rina by June 2021, or what was the date?
By March.
March of 2021. All right, excellent. Well, thank you, Jason.
Thank you, Jason.
Appreciate it. Yeah. I appreciate it. And we're going to transition over to Mark with his proposal. Just a reminder to everyone, I dropped a link in the chat for Jason's, and if you want to give us some feedback and let Jason know on a scale of 1 to 10, with 5 being average and 10 being awesome, let us know with Jason and Rina what you think. A scale of 1 to 10, let us know over there on the chat. Thank you all for your feedback and your questions from the viewers. I appreciate it.
Okay, Rick, if you could give me the presenter rights.
Okay, I'll give you presenter rights.
And I promise no kinky website.
I'm going to make you the co-host, and there it goes.
Okay, I got it.
All right. Okay.
And here I go, PDF. All right. And let me see if I can.
Okay, I can see it.
Okay, can you see it over full screen?
You're good to go.
Yeah, okay. So my proposal is for a decentralized cloud platform, which would combine the best from the blockchain technology, open source hardware, and open source software to enable a competitive establishment of competitive businesses to companies like AWS, Amazon Web Services, Google Compute Engine, Microsoft Azure, and so on, in the form of a distributed and decentralized system. My initial proposal is only for research, which is 75,000 ADA, which would be spent on peer review of some papers, which I will mention later, which enable which would enable me and confirm the feasibility that the things that I want to improve on already existing projects running on Ethereum or other networks are actually viable. So I would contract a zero knowledge cryptographer researcher who actually worked for Filecoin to review a certain paper and so on. What leads me to making this proposal is a brief history of computing. If you look how it started in 1938 by Enigma project, and where we got today with the hyper consolidation of IT service providers into maybe 10 companies. When I started in the industry, there may be like 5,000 significant competitors on the market. Now you just count like 10 providers being present on the market, which is consolidating even faster, which I see as a major problem for the industry later on. My idea is built on two pillars. One of the areas I want to focus on decentralized autonomous organizational research. So similarly to DC's proposal, service providers within this system would be getting governance tokens, which they could use to control a treasury. This project would have its own treasury, and they would be using these governance tokens to vote on how to allocate funding, how to change system parameters, and so on and so forth. Similarly to how you do it on Cardano mainnet, it would basically be Voltaire on Cardano for a specific project. And then there is a technical component where I want to focus on high-level design of the three technology pillars in the technical area domain, and building and having a low-level proposal to build an actual decentralized distributed storage product similar to Google Drive, OneDrive, iCloud, and so on and so forth, where the users of the Cardano ecosystem, especially pool operators, could host the storage nodes and get paid either in ADA or in fiat for storing the data of their customers who may be Cardano users or not. They could be their delegates, they may not be. Uh, but all data would of course be fully encrypted and protected from, so there would be no risk of data leaks. And it builds a platform to enable other applications. Like when we talk that there's a proposal on our idea scale for alternative to Spotify, you would basically need this storage product first, so you have where to store the song that you wanted to stream through the Spotify. So this is a product that would offer that service to that kind of the app that would replace Spotify, Netflix, YouTube, Wikipedia, and so on and so forth. Because even on Wikipedia, you have lots of pictures and other media content, which would be very inefficient to store on a blockchain. So from the decentralized autonomous organization, I would want it to focus on research and bring it some game theories from Charles University, from Department of Game Theory, and do a research on how to combine fungible and non-fungible tokens and liquid democracy in order to make faster decisions through establishment of an executive board, which would be elected from the holders, and instead of having for the entire community having vote every, I don't know, eight weeks or every month, there would be an executive branch making decisions every day, every week. And if you would disagree, you could remove your vote for that person, and if it would fall below certain threshold, then he would be replaced by a new election, and so on and so forth. So the goal is to streamline decision making and retain the high shareholder engagement and maintain the community control, so it won't become a Google. Because when I started working with Google products, their motto was "Don't be evil." Everybody knows that that's not true anymore. So from the technical perspective, my project it has three major pillars. It's the storage product that I spoke of. It would be something similar to StoreJ or Filecoin, but it wouldn't use its own native tokens for payments. All the payments would be done either in ADA or in native Cardano stablecoin, which should be delivered as part of the Gauntlet launch. So it reduces the volatility, and it basically provides backwards compatibility to Amazon S3. So it would be very easy to deploy any static sort of website like the one proposed by DC. They could basically have all this application running on our infrastructure using unstoppable domains running on Cardano, and they wouldn't have to use services of Google's, Amazon's, and alike to host the content. The other pillar is decentralized networking. There, I want to focus on decentralized VPNs, incentive mechanisms for Tor or I2P for enable quality of service. So someone who wants to remain anonymous can pay a little extra, but still have faster performance from the anonymity network. Another area of research would be decentralized content delivery network, which is Cloudflare, which makes internet safer and faster. You can do the same in a decentralized manner. Uh, Currently, around 70% of the most visited websites are behind Cloudflare. Cloudflare already removed certain sites like censored. So for the future, it poses a risk. So it would be nice to have a decentralized and distributed alternative to that. And the last area is actual computation, which is very complex, and it would be a whole separate proposal, maybe a year and a half from now. But it's included in the triage of the dCloud, because I see it that those are the three core components. But there needs to be some development on the hardware front, which is happening on a RISC-V open source CPU. IOG is using RISC-V for their secure element development. Satoshi Labs is using RISC-V, and lots of RISC-V chips are going to be coming out in the next year or two. So after that, the outsourcing of computation to untrusted parties would become viable as well. So as I said, the main point of my proposal is to do a sort of a feasibility and validation study. So I have a list of 4 papers that I need basically discuss with somebody who is a professional cryptographer, not just someone who had a couple semesters of advanced mathematics. So I need to make sure that these 4 papers put together would work as much as they do individually. So I have one paper which is proof of replication by protocol labs, simple proof of space-time, and rational proof of storage, which I would want it to use to issue those governance tokens to those pool operators or node operators. And then if this platform were to grow, some part of the logic would have to move off chain, because it would get too expensive on Cardano chain. So I also want the proof of stake side chain paper by IOG analyzed, and have a made like a quotation. What effort would it take to actually implement it in the Cardano node? And the last one is a review of Ouroboros Scripsinios, which is a privacy-preserving proof of stake. It basically enables the zero Zcash level of privacy in the Ouroboros proof of stake mechanism. So we would have an anonymity coin with the even delegation to the stake pools would be anonymous but still secure. And then there are other minor deliverables. I would want it to publish the results of the research on the own website and so on. So it would include logo design, website design, and that would basically be it from the implementation works. Uh, from the perspective of the providers of the resources for the network, depending on their sophistication, they may have little boxes, or they could have higher performing machines hosted
All
either
right.
at home or in the data center, like many stateful operators are doing. Yes.
Okay.
So
And we're at time. We're over the 10-minute mark for the initial pitch. We were going to start at 5, but
okay.
we went ahead to
So
10 minutes, as the first one went 10, then 10, so we went another 10.
okay. So
So it's time to roll over to questions from the Gauntlet, then we'll get questions from the chat. The primary feedback in chat so far has been it's been way too complicated and too difficult for people to understand what you're doing. So my first question is, in a nutshell, can you tell me in 10 words or less, what are you proposing and when do you deliver it? And that will kind of help facilitate people who are asking questions to chat who are saying it's too hard to understand. So what are you proposing and when does it deliver?
I am proposing a research that would deliver in 3 to 6 months a low-level specification for a project that could replace OneDrive, Google Drive, or iCloud storage syncing, and the output would be a low-level proposal for roughly another 150,000 ADA to actually develop the solution as a port of already existing product from Ethereum with set of improvements which would make it better. And over time, we would differentiate more and more from the competitor that currently runs on Ethereum.
Okay, understood. All right. So the key is you're delivering the research that enables these ideas that you've presented. All right. I think that was a good answer. Hopefully that clarified information for people in the chat. And I'm going to turn it over to the Gauntlet guys.
Okay.
What are your questions there?
Yeah, I have a question for Mark. So, what's the viability? What's the interest for decentralized cloud for a decentralized cloud platform? Because when you look at platforms like AWS or Microsoft Azure, I mean, you can argue in essence that they're kind of decentralized. I mean, they're owned by a company, but servers are all over the world, and
So
companies.
that's the difference between centralized, decentralized. If you look at the bottom of my slide, centralized, decentralized, and distributed. So they are centralized, they are distributed, but and centralized. This alternative is both distributed and decentralized. And the incentive there is that it's actually cheaper. AVS, Google, and so on, they have margins of around 40%. So you can split those 40%, 20% the node operators will make as revenue, as profit, and the 20% can be discount over the current Google Clouds, OneDrives, and so on, if you don't fit within the free tier that they provide. And my idea for the free tier would be that some stateful operators may actually offer a free tier to their delegates. So if you would be a delegate of a certain stake to a certain stake pool who would also participate in this project, you may give them like 5 GB of D drive for free as part of the delegation, and they could buy from you or from a decentralized marketplace more over time if they would need it to.
Okay. I still feel like this product is extremely niche because, first of all, people would have to be interested in blockchain technology and then interested in decentralized cloud platforms. You mentioned in your proposal that the market cap for cloud backup is around $10 billion per year for the industry.
Yes, that's correct.
So, I mean, realistically speaking, for this kind of use case, I mean, if we look at traditional companies, I mean, there are certain companies that are still using like Windows 95 as an operating system. How realistic is it to port traditional companies onto decentralized cloud computing platforms?
They wouldn't even know they are running on decentralized platform. From the end user perspective, he doesn't know the difference. The only difference is that the IP address is different, and he doesn't remember the AVS IP address. So it's just different URL, different icon, different app, but it's totally transparent to the end user. Who you need to convince are the IT companies and the IT consultants, and those you convince through we can deliver 20% savings annually to your client on backups, for instance.
Okay. Yeah, but so if you're speaking with a company and you're trying to migrate them onto your platform, I mean, you showed 3 pictures of different server setups, and the first picture is a Rock Pi. If you're running a company that, or you have 3 different setups.
This is what you show to the stateful operators. This hardware is for the stateful operators.
Yeah, so I mean, as
the service.
But as a company, if you're using that service and you know that your data is being basically run on a Rock Pi, or people with Rock Pis are processing your transactions or processing your data, does that make a company more tentative to even explore that solution and stay with a traditional provider like AWS or Microsoft Azure?
They don't care because their workload wouldn't even run on that. You can combine it with the identity solution, and you can have different tiers of equipment for different kind of a workload. So this would be something that on the rock pie, that's something that somebody who doesn't really want to make any money being part of this ecosystem, but is an SPO and wants to add this benefit of free Google Drive to his delegates, he would buy something like that, or he already has it, and it would fit all the data from his 100, 200 delegates. Then, if you would want it to actually become a part of that larger commercial ecosystem, you would have to go with the pro SPO level devices or medium dCloud or enterprise SPO nodes. And those are devices that we've been buying, that I've been installing for HSBC, Barclays, and many other corporations, and it still would be 20% cheaper to the customer to provide a service from this on a distributed decentralized network from a commercial data center if it would be run by multiple entities on a competitive marketplace.
And that is 5 minutes. Thank you, Mark, and thank you, Philippe. We are going to go over the last 5 minutes here. We're going to go to the chat and check the questions over there. Mark, could you bring down the screen share, please?
Sure.
Just hit that top center
I know.
there. Yep.
I have a quick question.
You got it.
Whenever you guys
I forget that too sometimes.
Yeah, he has a quick question. You can shoot your question real quick.
Thanks. Yeah. So Mark, you talked about the DAO setup, and we're at Liqwid debating LLC, traditional route or go DAO and Cardano, fully decentralized. What are the benefits you get from going DAO route? How does it help the stake pool operators? And could you just describe your tokenomics a little more? Because you mentioned like an NFT fungible token and a fungible token. So just kind of go through how that works for dCloud.
So the tokenomics is that the fungible token, which is the governance token that makes you eligible, that makes you able to vote, to become a candidate, and to receive profits from the common fund. Those would be issued to all the operators who provide capacity on the network.
Stake pool operators.
Not stake pool operators, the node operators, but there may not be the same. Probably people who run their stake pools in the data center or at home, those would participate. Those who run on the cloud, they would be losing money by participating because they would be paying those 40% margins.
Understood.
And the non-fungible, but making decisions in such a diverse group would be cumbersome. So I came up with the idea of non-fungible tokens, where you would have roles like CTO, CFO, CEO, project manager, lead programmer, and so on and so forth. And the community, the governance token holders would use those to vote those non-fungible those roles, and those could then allocate certain amount of funds from the DAO budget quickly without extensive approval. For instance, we would need $50,000 extra to solve some emergency. These executives, if 3 of them would agree, they could have the money in an hour. If it would have to be community vote, it could take a week. But if it would be voting for more money, then there would need it to be a community approval for that as well.
Understood.
Okay.
I got it.
All right. Thank you for that, Mark, and thank you, DC. That was a question also from Steak and Eggs Stake Pool. Exact same question. DC, what were the other 2 questions? Because I also saw them in chat. So the governance token and the other parts were?
I mean, the other part was just the benefits you get from going DAO over LLC base. And I have one more question. It's a little more technical. I have some friends.
Go ahead, Mark.
The
LLC versus DAO.
Yeah.
There is a software development company that develops this solution. That's an incorporated entity, but it only develops the DAO, and it is a member of the DAO. It owns the sum of the tokens because it also and then you have the bunch of operators. So every operator who runs a pool, he probably has some sort of LLC. So he would just instead of his LLC just running a stake pool, it would also be running a dCloud node, getting additional revenue from that LLC. And that LLC would basically be a beneficiary of those tokens, which would then make the LLC able to vote around the DAO.
I gotcha. So it's like
All right,
mini LLCs that make up. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mini
so I got to go to the
LLCs
viewers'
that make
questions.
Google, yeah.
I got to go to the viewers' questions, okay? We got to get to the viewers, all right? Because these are the people who are voting. These are the people who can give you the claps and
Shoot
votes,
me.
all right? All right, the next question is from Kevin. And Kevin D asks, who would put their important files on a blockchain? I feel like the demand will be low for the dCloud. So, for example, I think what Kevin is asking here, who would put their important files in the dCloud? Mark, what say you?
Well, I would definitely put my data on that. And if I look at the competing projects, they currently have around, let me get the exact figure, 2.1 petabytes of storage already used.
Is it encrypted and safe? I think that's the question.
It's encrypted. It's encrypted and safe. It also uses a thing called erasure coding. So if one node fails, the data is replicated against around multiple nodes. So it can around failures. And actually, what I propose is to also include a reputation-based system. So if somebody has that verified high-level setup that I showed, and 3 different independent internet connections and so on and so forth, the data stored on his machine would be replicated maybe only to 2 other users, while if you are running the Pi, it's going to be shared among 20 others.
All right, and that is time. Thank you, Mark, and thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Planet Steak. Thank you, Steak and Eggs. And thank you for all of your questions in the chat. I appreciate it. There's a feedback from Create the Unimaginable, and they say, Mark, I suggest simplifying your presentation. Just focus on a DAO-based decentralized storage. And the key is it was the research. So there's some good feedback in the chat. Let me know over in the chat how Mark, his proposal is, the content, the quality of the proposal, and what you think of it on a scale of 1 to 10. All right, with 5 being average and 10 being awesome. Let us know in the chat how you like that.
If I can just add, I already uploaded the PDF with the presentation to the Idea Scale platform, so it's in the attachments. So if anyone wants to go detailed through it also has references to the papers that I want to review and so on, so they can find the information there.
Excellent. Thank you, Mark. And I will put the links to all of the proposals down below, so as viewers watch this podcast throughout the day and the following week, they can go give y'all claps where they think it's appropriate, because you did a great job presenting your information. Thank you for coming on the Gauntlet. Philippe, do you have anything you want to do to wrap us up? I want to remind you guys, just stay on the line when we finish up here, and I'll bring down the live stream and we'll wrap it from there. So
yes, I want to thank all the listeners and viewers of the Cardano Effect. This is our episode 1 of the Gauntlet series. So this is a new series that we started, and the basic premise of this series is to get all those proposals from Project Catalyst onto the Cardano Effect, whoever wants to present. This is kind of like a little think tank, and we have a little Shark Tank-like atmosphere. So we ask the critical and thoughtful questions in order to break down these proposals, because an educated voter is the most important thing. Voting is going to start probably in a couple weeks. I'm not sure exactly how that process is going to go down.
It should be, you're going to be able to. The vote should be final by 20th of October, I think.
20th of October. Okay, so, and we have the 3 proposals. We're going to drop it in the link below. I want to thank Jason, I want to thank DC, and I want to thank Mark for joining us on episode 1 of the Gauntlet. It takes a lot of guts to come on here, and I appreciate that. I appreciate all 3 of you. And yeah, I think that's it, Rick. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's it. Let me ask Pikachu. Pikachu, is that it? Pika Pika! Yeah, Pikachu says that's it.
All right, everyone. Enjoy your weekend, and until the next episode of the Cardano Effect. Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Have a good one.